Hi guys, and welcome to Tip of the Spearhead. I'm Ace Face, and as always, I'm with my good buddy Simon. How you doing, Simon?
We're okay, my friend. This is week 2 of lockdown free for me. So
Yeah, the shoe's very much on the other foot now, isn't it?
yeah. Let's not brag about being good again, right? But yeah, it's I'm feeling it. So all of you guys in the UK who are still in lockdowns and whatnot, I feel it.
Lockdown
Feel your
veterans.
pains. Feel your pains.
Hmm.
It's not fun, is it? But anyway,
No,
anyway,
it's
let's
not.
not
It's not.
don't hear my moaning about that sort of shit. Let's be honest.
No, but I mean, fingers crossed. I think globally, it seems like we are on our way out of this. Fingers crossed. So we'll see. We'll see what happens over the
Yeah,
next few months. But
yeah, for the hobby that we all want to go back to playing tournaments, right? That's what we're here for.
Exactly, and so I think exciting times are ahead now. Hopefully, and hopefully by this time next year, this will all feel quite a long way away. So we'll see how we go. But fingers crossed. I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling like the mojo is starting to come back. But if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, it comes from from Twisted Dice Network, and we do all things wargamer related. So our main channel, if you like, is Battle Reports, but they've been on hold since for the last 3 months while we've been responsible and not able to do them because of COVID. But we do tactics, painting tutorials, and all sorts of other good stuff. We're very active on social media. So check us out, and all the links and stuff will be down below. And if you want to become part of our Patreon service and part of our Discord server, you can also join through the links there as well. But today, obviously, there isn't any really kind of brand new, sort of hot off the press releases. Really, I mean, I think what we could just briefly touch on is just how damn cool Be'lakor looks. Let's just
Yeah,
talk about that briefly because I am in love with that model. It just looks so cool, right?
yeah. He is a vast upgrade on that. Well, look, some people have said they like the metal one. I like it as a model, but it never really imbued any power. He looked like a Gollum version of a demon prince. And I know that was kind of his fluff, wasn't it? He was the first demon prince, and he was, he grew too big for his boots, and they smited him down. But the model never really, for me,
No,
wasn't really that amazing. And that new one is it's a wow model, isn't it? And
it is. But
definitely,
yeah, I think that what I like about it as well is it still captures kind of the essence of the original model as well. It's very kind of true to it, but just taking it to a whole new level. I think it just looks really, really cool. So
well, they do that though, don't they? You have to give
they do.
GW its due. They take they do take the when they sort of revamp a model, they take the sort of core of kind of what it was, and they kind of try and drag that through. And I like that. It is very
Yeah,
very cool. I mean, that Sigvald the Magnificent is one of the best models I've ever seen. And you think, look at what the model was to what it is. They've taken that essence of the old world and the smaller model, and they've made it. They've vamped him up, haven't they? So I think they've done exactly the same with Be'lakor, haven't they? They've taken the essence of that
yeah.
smaller, cool model, but that's really sort of gone to town on it, and it looks like a centerpiece model, right? You have
He
that.
does. He does. Yeah. And
Just
I
hope
mean,
these rules stack him up as
oh,
well, because
I
I'd love to
hope
see him on
so.
the table.
Oh, absolutely. And he's got, look, I mean, look at the size of him. He's size wise comparable with the Bloodthirster and the Lord of Change when you see them sort of by side. He's a little bit smaller and obviously got a whacking great big base, but he's still substantially bigger than a normal Demon Prince. So you would expect that his stats should reflect that he's not just kind of a Demon Prince with a bit of extra psychic powers and a better sword. So we'll wait and see. But I'm excited to see what he does on the table. I mean, I think, and I will be buying that model. And I'm not like I would say Chaos is probably my third kind of army, I suppose, after Tyranid and Tal. That's a sort of model that for me I'm just getting anyway. It doesn't even matter if it's going in my army or not. I just want to paint that guy, and that's rare for me to just want that model no matter what because it's just that gorgeous. So I thought we'd just touch on that because that's probably the only thing that's really really exciting that's come down the channel over the last week or so. So what we thought we'd do today is just have a bit of fun with some of the new releases that have been over the past kind of probably about what three sort of four
Well,
four or 5 months maybe.
since the start of ninth, isn't it? Really, it's
Yeah,
that's where we go. We're going back to where it began again.
Yeah, it's just Space Marines, funny enough. So yeah. I mean, what we thought we would do is we've kind of gone away and we've listed what we think are our top kind of winners and bottom kind of losers from the new released codexes. So starting off at Space Marines and going all the way to Dark Angels.
So chaos starts with Imperium, ends with chaos, right?
Ends with chaos, exactly. Yeah, keep that joke going. Why not? Eh? Why not?
I
Yes, we
believe
thought.
if we stop that joke, hell will freeze over. So that's just where we have to go with that. I'm
I think
afraid.
that's fair. I think that's fair. So we thought we would break it down and talk through those, and yeah, just thought it'd be interesting. And what would be really good if you're kind of watching this or listening to it on YouTube, let us know what your kind of top three winners and bottom three losers are, because it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts.
I
Because no
will
doubt
get
you'll
it wrong.
disagree massively. Yeah, well,
You will get
you'll
it
hate us
wrong.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got my bulletproof vest on. I'm ready to go. Let's.
You have. I think you have to. I think you have to. So let's just dive straight in. I think, and we're going to start off with winners, because we decided the losers would be a lot more fun. So you can wait for that until slightly later on in the show, because we can make fun of some units that very much took a battering. So do you want to kick things off with your first winner, Simon?
Oh, see, I haven't picked really exciting ones, really, to be honest. And I'm not entirely sure I've picked any stupidly unobvious ones either. But my first one might actually be a little bit out there, and it might raise some eyebrows. But it's a unit which is actually new-ish as well. And since I've been playing with it, it's quite a humble little unit, but I've come to love it. And I'm going to throw in my first unit into the pot. I'm going to go with Assault Intercessors. I think they are for me. You need troop choices anyway, right?
You do.
And I won't mention one of my losers, because that is a slot which Space Marines now have a little bit more to need to fill, right? And we won't give anything away, but they're actually a unit that I'm a Space Force player now, right? So until I start to play competitively and I change it to something else, but let's not go into that. But right now I'm a Space Force player, right? And the two assault kind of codexes that have come out, which is Blood Angels and Space Wolves, they fit really well in both, because in both kind of armies you can get a +1 to hit and a +1 to wound, and they are the only unit that we can fight twice with. And I think, and it's the sheer amount of attacks that you can pour in, and you can't. I mean, like, just a normal little assault intercessor with a chainsword, he's going in with like 4 attacks, and you can't. And especially with now, and they've benefited again. So initially we were all a little bit like, ooh, if we go into the assault doctrine, do we get it? Don't we? The way it was worded was we kind of don't.
Yeah.
So they kind of like was a little bit. So I was still playing them and not getting the extra benefits. And then suddenly you get the extra benefits. It's like, well, hang about. That now makes them a little bit better again, because now we're getting exploding 6s too. And the thing with that, anytime you get exploding 6s, you want to roll as many dice as possible, right?
Absolutely.
So when you're going in with these little units, you can have a unit of 5. You don't have to go mad. And like, I've gone back up to Thunderhammers because of bloody Death Guard. So your Thunderhammer guys going in with 4 attacks, potentially ×2. They're getting +1 to hit. You can spend the CP on +1 to wound for me. Blood Angels flip it to get, and they can get the +1 to hit from the bloody bolts and +1 to wound innately. And it's just a little unit, and it just does so much. It's amazing what they'll wipe out. You sit and look at what the damage that little unit's done, and you go, bloody hell, they've just.
Yeah, I think it's really fair, and I think that one of the things that I think is it makes them so key and such a useful unit is the way 9th edition works. Is I think it's swinging more and more to a edition that really does benefit from having quite a lot of small useful units. And if you've got a small useful unit that actually has a little bit of resilience built in, and ultimately they're Space Marine, 2 wounds, 3 up save, it's not too bad. Toughness 4, it's not terrible. But then you chuck on. Yeah, exactly.
Transhuman them, and then suddenly it's like, wow, okay. But the biggest thing is they're OBSEC, which is big, and they're an objective taking unit.
Yes.
So and what I've sort of discovered is I was sort of like, I will use my party bus, I will chuck them in the impulsor and try and bomb across the board. But also, if the need takes me, with the Space Wolves especially,
outflank them.
1 CP, outflank, and it's like, you're rolling in your dice, you're taking your chances when they come in, but they're not a huge amount of points. But they're an impactful unit. So when I was thinking about it, they're a massive winner for me, because they're like, wow, every game they'll do work, right? It's
Hmm.
very rare they don't dive in and do a job.
Yeah, and for the
And
points, they're very useful, aren't they? Very useful.
it's almost like it's a fire and forget missile, isn't it? You just chuck him in, and it's amazing. Like there's always some of them left. And whilst that sergeant's alive with that thunderhammer, with the ability to hit twice, it's like hang about. He's now hitting harder than a lord is.
Yeah,
You know, it's like wow, hang about. He's doing a real job. So yeah,
yeah.
so that's my
I think
little
it's a
plus one.
really good call. Very much a sleeper unit, I think, and definitely one worth looking at if you're playing any kind of aggressive Space Marine army. So yeah, I like that. It's good. It's good. Very
So
good.
yeah, that's my first one on the shelf.
Nice, nice. What do you want to do? Do you want to go back to me then? Chuck one for me
Yeah,
then,
man.
do
Got one back from you now. Come on, come at me. I don't know what you've got.
we? Well, I don't know whether to kind of go big or kind of
Oh, go
just
big.
kind of
That's the giveaway. Come on.
well, I thought, do I go with my kind of the really heavy hitters, or do I, start it off? I'll tell you what, I'm going to start it off with the Plague Burst Crawler. Um, for
Yeah.
me, I just think, they were good before, but they got better in just pretty much every single way. So they became,
The
more,
mortar, isn't it? The mortar's
yeah,
now
yeah.
absolutely usable, and it's an
The,
absolute dog.
the mortar's great.
Yeah.
They're so resilient. They're just a nightmare to clear off. You can use them for blocking. You can use them. There's stratagems you put them on. Their secondary weapons are good. The fact that they can fire in combats, it doesn't matter. Well, the blast one won't, but obviously
Yeah,
the
the
other,
blast did nothing, right? You
exactly.
never used it in the
Yeah,
previous edition. I don't.
yeah.
What if you did it? You did it out of like a whatever.
Hmm.
One hit. I'm hitting on fives or sixes or whatever stupid it was. No, I've missed whatever, and that was kind of how it was.
Yeah,
And then suddenly it was like it's now gone to what hitting on threes,
yeah.
and with that extra damage, and it's like so hang about. That gun's good, right?
It's so good,
If
so
you
good.
sort of
No,
think of like you playing against me, and I've got like my little units of Space Marines hiding on objectives, they're just gone because
yeah,
they can't stand up to that thing. It's like shit. It's just a tank.
yeah.
That's like a better tank than my tanks. It's
Yeah.
just it's a definite. Yeah, I see that, mate. It's
I
a
just
beast of
think
a
it's
weapon now, isn't it?
yeah, it just does so much as well. Sit on a backfield objective as well. You're not going to clear it off particularly, so you're going to have to try and get over there.
It's
And then when
tough.
you get
It's
over there,
sturdy.
you're going to have to throw enough at it to try and get rid of it. So it's just for me, it's one of those things. It just does something so useful within that Death Guard army that it just gives you some real kind of some backfield resilience. But then late game, there's nothing to say. You can't just push that thing forward and be a nuisance with it as well. So I think it kind of wins in every kind of area of the battlefield. And I tell you what, if your opponent tries to take kind of like big the sort of heavy hitters kind of secondary objective, good luck to them because you ain't clearing that thing easily.
No, no, no,
No,
no.
no.
People are still going to bring three of them, right? Straight up,
I think so.
two or three.
I think two is where probably the magic sweet spot is. I think three, and it probably gets slightly more expensive. Depending
Definitely
on.
two, right? You're not
But
going to
two,
see
I
one.
think,
Yeah,
I think you take two. I think you take two.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great unit, a really, really great unit. And if I was playing Death Guard, I would 100% have two of them in every single list.
And if you're a Death Guard player, you already have them anyway. Because why
You,
wouldn't
you probably had
probably
nine
had
of them, right?
six? Yeah. You had six at one point. I
Yeah,
faced six of the frigging things, right?
yeah.
But yeah, and they've not gotten any worse.
They just got better in every way. I don't think there's one way that they got
It's
worse.
the
I
fact
think,
that so you used to tag him in combat, right? So this was the thing, wasn't it? You
yeah,
just literally you try and charge something, and then you charge it in such a way that you could basically do your initiative step in, tag
yeah,
it, can't shoot, and that took it out of the game.
yeah,
So they became expensive roadblocks, and they were very hard to kill, right? But you could dominate, you could make them then,
yeah.
and then when you try pointing them in, they got very hard for them to do much, and they just sat there. But you can't do that now because they
Yeah.
shoot you anyway. And it's
And but
just
the
like
thing,
shit.
yeah, and when you're fighting something like that, what you want is your really because the sort of stuff if you're firing against something that's toughness 8, you want something that's generally going to do like multiple damage, and having that -1
Yeah,
damage to everything
yeah,
just means that all the stuff that you want to shoot it at, you just that stuff's really hurting, and then the stuff that it doesn't matter about the -1 damage, you can't shoot that at it because it won't hurt it.
yeah.
So you kind of like you're just in such a win-win situation with them. I just think they're just
Well,
such a good
we
unit.
remember how much of a dick wave serpents were, right? And
Well, exactly.
this is now it's a
Wave
non-flying,
serpent on on
but
steroids.
it's pretty much like what happened to your shoot you can't effects though. It's
Mm,
like suddenly a unit that was absolutely turd in
yeah,
combat.
yeah,
Now that tank in combat's amazing. Like,
yeah,
come at me.
yeah.
I
Who
don't give a
cares?
shit.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
I
yeah.
have
Bring
two
it on.
flamethrowers, I'm doing more damage in combat than I was doing ever. So
Exactly.
why do I not want? Yeah, come at me. And
Yeah,
suddenly it's like shit. I can't even tie the thing up now, and I
yeah,
can't tie it up with the sort of chaff I would normally have tied it up with because they'll just die. You're like,
yep,
oh, hang about. This is a serious piece of kit now. So yeah,
yeah,
no, that is winner, winner, mate. I'm
yeah,
all on that one.
yeah, yeah. What you got next up?
Ah, see, I tried really hard to sort of think about all the different codexes, and I didn't just want to go to my standard, like what I would normally go for. So I tried to. I sat there for a while. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go Death Guard because I knew you'd probably peppered it with the same things I would probably have gone for. So I went, okay, well, let's think of one of the earlier codexes, the Necrons.
Hmm.
It would be too easy to say the Silent King because that's genuinely a sort of standout unit, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. I almost went Silent King. I think it's definitely an honourable mention.
Yeah, well, it's a bit too obvious because it's their one thing, isn't it? To be fair.
Yeah,
So, and I sat there and thought, I can't be harsh. I don't want to put all of the bloody, all of their stuff in the turd pile, because in fairness, the warrior goes with the Silent King. He's not himself
no,
very strong. He just
yeah,
gets, like, well, that doesn't really work. So I thought, you know what? Because of the terror it brings to a tabletop, and the strategy you have to adopt to try and take care of it,
hmm,
I think the Nightbringer is probably
yeah.
because
Good
it's
shout.
just we've played a lot of smaller games and he's not quite so good in that, but in 2000 points where you've got a little bit of room to have that terror unit, and I
Yeah,
think it's definitely propped up by the fact the model's not very big either, and I think when
no,
you've got that kind of a model that you want to be shifty with, move him up the board, get him into the game, he's not like a ginormous unit, and the way that most of the terrain now works, yeah, yes, he can't hide behind troops, but he can hide behind a building, and I think if you see him played, if a smart player had him, and I'm not sure they probably would bring him, but if he was played smartly, I think he's going to be more that kind of you can't. I'd play him quite defensively, to be honest. I probably would keep him back. I would
hmm,
hide him, and I'd sort of say, "You want to come and take my bases? You crack on, right?
hmm.
Because look what's there." And then suddenly it's like, "Ooh, hang about. Don't think I want to be getting into that." Because once he gets you, you are in all levels of trouble. I think
Mm.
he's probably is it fair to say so far he's probably the hardest hitting character we've got?
Um,
Anything stands up to it in combat, right?
I think it's a different one. So does he do the most damage? Maybe not, but is he the one thing that you would put against anybody? Yes. So I
Because
suppose it's
that's
kind of
all I'm saying.
that's the thing, isn't it?
It's whatever. It's just I don't think there's anything that actually can stand up to him one on one, right? And
No,
I
well
know
that's it. Yeah,
and I know
that's
you
it. But
probably picked the guy who he's probably most adept at taking down because I know what you're like. But I just when he's put on the battlefield, you need to have a plan for him, and I think any unit that does
yeah,
that is good enough to be any unit that makes you have a stratagem to take care of it is, in my personal opinion, a really good unit.
I agree. I agree. And if you look at a unit that's made a monumental increase in power level from where it was to where it is now. I think that's one of the big things that you can talk about it as well, because it's not the fact that it's a really strong unit now. It's the fact that where it's gone from to where it is now.
Oh yeah,
Because
it's
before
different
you
planet.
wouldn't take it. I mean, the only Catan basically you would ever take is the other one, the Deceiver, for bouncing stuff about.
Yeah,
You just didn't see the Nightbringer. The Nightbringer was just a nonsense unit that didn't really have any real use.
unless you were
Um,
Toby.
we don't talk about that unless you're Toby, bless him. But yeah, you
Yeah,
don't take
true.
him because he was never very good. But now he is, he's probably head or shoulders above the other Catans. Unfortunately, that big,
Is it
beautiful
too
new
big?
model. Well, it's also not that great in my mind. It's just not very
He's
strong.
awesome at killing tanks,
Vehicles, yeah.
and that's
It's
kind of
just
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can't have a unit that is just so adept at killing one particular unit, because you're going to have a lot of matchups where he's actually not that great. So yeah, I mean, which is a shame because he looks like he should be absolutely,
It's a
frightening as
model I'd
hell.
want to paint, and
Oh mate, it's
again,
incredible model, right? Incredible model.
And I think I can't remember which painter it was, but one of them did it in this like really cool non-metallic, and I think it's probably one of the best painted models I've ever seen in my life. You know, on a GW review, he just
Yeah,
made that. That was the same thing as what you've got from Bellacore. I
Liverpool,
got from
yeah,
that. It's like I want that
yeah,
model to paint it,
yeah.
but because it just looks with all of that shit and the lightning, he just looks one of the most impactful models you've ever seen, which makes me
Absolutely.
a little bit scared about Bellacore because I really hope they don't kind of do the same thing of awesome looking model.
Crap
Oh, let's
rolls.
tone it
Yeah.
down a little bit.
Yeah, but I think the thing with that Catan is, I think people will probably, well, the Void Dragon, that's the name of it. That
That's him.
Catan, the Void Dragon. I think people, the Necron players are actually probably competitive. Necron players are probably pretty pleased. He's pretty crap because imagine trying to transport that to Vegas. No fucking way, no way. You might as well
It with
buy it
drum
there and
pieces, right?
paint it in your hotel room because that thing ain't making the journey.
Or commission paint it to be delivered to Vegas. I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
So I
It's
think there probably
big
is a
fun.
few. There's a few quite relieved Necron players probably
Yeah,
because I think I'd rather take the Nightbringer.
because the Nightbringer is pretty easy, right?
Yeah,
He just
it's one
slots right
blob.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. But no,
So,
good call, good call. I like that. So my next winner, I'm going to go for it. This is a pretty obvious choice. I'm going to go for Blade Guard, but I am going to put the caveat and go with Dark Angel Blade Guard.
I don't think you need to caveat it. I think it's a great unit. I just think a great unit made better.
Yeah, definitely, definitely,
I,
definitely.
I would I wrote them down and crossed them out because even in my space ones they're awesome, right? They're just a brilliant unit, but they're even better when they get a built-in 1, 2, 3 doesn't wound them.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the reality is just giving them that extra Deathwing ability. It just they were good as you said before, but it just puts that extra layer, which just takes them to for me just makes them incredibly good. And you know, my kind of temptation was to go with other Deathwing units. You know, I'm a massive fan of the Knights,
Yeah, but they were
but
already good, right?
they
And
were
that's
already good. The
and
points
that's what I
main,
was the same. You
yeah.
know, I was the same. It was like, but that would seem too obvious because those Deathwing Knights were already good with from their kind of whatever they called it, their data sheet thing, weren't they?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so yeah,
But I just think as well, you know, the style of that model. I mean, they're beautiful models anyway. You've painted them. You know, you've had a
yeah,
start to
love
play with those guys. They're beautiful models, and they actually go so well with that kind of Deathwing theme. You know, they are very kind of like knightly type. You know, I just think they kind of fit that aesthetic perfectly. They do a job really really well. In ninth edition, when you want something that's super resilient but also you know can hit very hard as well, they do that job. They fit in that kind of min max style as well because you take them in a very small unit. I just think they kind of tick a lot of boxes for me for a unit that you know I
they're
just think
points efficient as well.
so
You know,
point efficient. Yeah,
I mean, because like I run a unit of 5. Now, my only sort of the only thing which kind of caveats me down a little bit is the appearance of the Death Guard has made them slightly less appealing because of the damage too.
mm-hmm.
But that's very broad strokes because you're not always going to be playing Death Guard, and I think against lots of other things they're just deaf. You know, they are. You just load them up. You know, you load them up with all of the various strats that you need to do.
Yeah,
Um, you know, the I think the Death Guard, the Dark
yeah,
Angels version
yeah, yeah.
takes a slightly different approach, but they're
Yeah.
awesome in Blood Angels. +1 to wound, Jesus Christ, right? They're just deaf.
Yeah, I mean
You know,
they're a really really solid unit for everyone. I just think you know for me that kind of having the inbuilt
oh, save CP. It's
transhuman
amazing.
is just
Yeah, yeah,
it's just insane. That rule in itself is just it's strong full stop. But then you put it on one of your hardest hitting, most resilient units, and it just it fits perfectly. So I really really like them. You know, I just think they're kind of perfect in that slot, and definitely a real gem in that Dark Angels book. So yeah, definitely
because
get my vote.
they're cheap enough to like because almost like the more you play ninth, the more you start to realize it's hold your objectives, take 1 or 2 of the others, and then just hold that kind of position. You don't have to go. I'm sure people will go gangbusters and try and wipe out everything, but you don't have to.
No,
And it's suddenly like having that kind of unit that's not a huge amount of points,
yeah,
that is that resilient because you sit them on terrain and they're on a 1-up save.
yeah,
Just like Jesus Christ, you can't shift them. 1-up save. You're not wounding them on, and this is the thing. So it almost feels like a perfect foil to what you've just said. Is I'm sitting there thinking, Christ, I put my infiltrators on an objective because that's what I normally use to hold objectives now. That stupid plague mort is just going to kill me to bits. I stick those guys on it. You ain't killing me to bits now.
No, exactly.
And it feels almost wasteful for them, but it's suddenly like they're not that many points for you to maybe want to consider doing it.
They're not,
because suddenly it's like I'm not. My weapons aren't necessarily going to be the best against you, but I'm going to be damn hard to shift. So it's like suddenly you change that dynamic of suddenly now I'm holding an objective that you can't really take off me. What you're going to do, and I just kind of like that. And it's just the fact that they always can't be wounded on that, and anything sort of big weaponry when you're wounding them 50% of the time,
it's hard, right?
And they've got a 4-up invul as well. So even if you hit them with something heavy, 4-up with 3 wounds a pop. Ah, man, I got a lot of love for them.
Yeah. So what have you got at your on your number 3 slot then?
I don't think this is very obvious, but having faced them, I think these are going to be quite prevalent, and that is Raven Wing attack bikes with friggin' multi-melters. Mate, they're just insane. I can't get my head around just how literally insane they are. They're just so fast. They hit so hard. They're not that many points. They've got a million tricks as well with all of the various things that they can do. I just think you're going to see, if you play Dark Angels, I can't see why you wouldn't have 1, 2, maybe 3 squads of them.
I wouldn't have them. I don't like Raven Wing.
But you don't need to go all Raven, mate. You're not seeing the power of that many melter shots with that much speed. It's just they're just not
plasma shots. You mean, don't you?
No, multi-melter.
The attack bikes. You mean?
Yeah, attack bikes. You just have a unit of 3.
I know the little guys. Yeah.
They are. You're going to see them a lot, right? Because they are fast. They hit really hard. I'm not talking about anything else, but they've got massive range when you consider how fast they move.
Yeah.
Just have a little detachment of Raven Wing. You don't have to go nuts. Like you can have all your extra stuff, but you just have a little detachment of these guys. Just not like the sort of stuff that might be big and chunky. They're gonna do some serious damage to it, right? Because they've got proper melters as well, haven't they? So they've got the +2 damage. They're gonna get in half range pretty easily.
Yeah.
You think of those tanks. You get a mob of those 3 guys on you. Even those big tanks are going to struggle.
Because I mean that's what they're made for, right?
Yeah, straight up. So you're -1 damage against them. I'm only +1 damage then. I'm still gonna. That's still not good, right? And that's suddenly that seems like your hard counters to those plague tanks. But having them there, hide them behind something. If you get first turn, your movement is huge. I don't know. I just think they're so move over, because I was going to go with Eradicators because I think Eradicators are amazing, but they're quite static.
And they're very obvious, aren't they? They're a very obvious choice.
Yeah, and there are a lot of points as well. So it's and what do you do? Do you if I'm Space Wolves, do I outflank them? If you're no other Space Marines, do you deep strike them? It's or by deep strike, come on from a board edge, but it's limiting your ability to get at anything that comes at you in the middle. Whereas these bikes, you have to deal with them, and they're like 4 wounds a pop. And if you really wanted to be a dick, you just run an apothecary on a bike, don't you? And it just brings them all back to life again.
So I've gone kind of 2 mindsets.
Yeah, I think you're going to see these a lot,
my
mate.
kind of final choice because
it
is kind of one was
I don't like Raven,
but I like generally amazing unit. But second is because I just know it will trigger people, so I thought I would go for it again.
I've written it down. Does it start with M?
It does start with M, and it is the big man and Mortarian.
I don't think you've heard
it's
it
probably
first.
pretty obvious.
I think that's what will happen. I out because
but there we go. So
I think one of us would.
I just want to troll people as well for the next, give it 5 minutes of trolling because I know that there's a lot of people that massively disagree. But I tell you what, I was doing my homework, right? So I thought actually this time I would do a bit of homework. So I mean, I thought that's quite good of me, quite responsible.
This is a new thing.
This is a new thing, but so I actually went on to Best Coast Pairings, and I looked at the very small sample set I had of tournaments worldwide, and I looked through, not many, and I looked at kind of the Death Guard lists for the past sort of month and a half, and there wasn't many, but the ones that were there predominantly all had Mortarion in. So as much as people, maybe dismissed it as potentially not the strongest choice, I still disagree. I think I think Mortarion sits in your best Death Guard list personally, particularly at the moment until there are more answers out there.
And that's it. That's exactly the point. And why I wrote him down and then crossed them out was exactly that. Any unit that forces you to change your list to deal with it is a good unit, right? Yeah. That's all I can think about. If I have to change my list to have to deal with him, then he is a good unit. Now we might all have a way of dealing with him, but he has changed the meta on his own, right? That's what he's done.
Yeah,
that's got to be a good unit in my. That's got to be a good unit in my eyes.
Yeah, and if you look at unit as well, I mean, the reality again, when we look at kind of what Mortarion was and what Mortarion is now, whereas before we looked at very much just an absolute sledgehammer unit. Well, he still is that, but he's much more of a force multiplier now. He works much better as a synergy unit within your list. He helps you out. He's much more useful as well at kind of weakening your opponent as well as just hammering them. He in 9th edition, he has a real kind of use on top of the real obvious, and that I think just gives him extra layers. So he's gone from being a very good unit before, but a unit that very much there was an answer to being a unit.
We all built that. So you knew that if somebody brought him, you had to have an answer to it. So we all had an answer to it, or any serious player had an answer to it, because which then kills the unit, right? Because nobody brings him anymore. So,
but just by the introduction to 9th edition, he got better just in his old form, and that's the thing. Just the ability to have much quicker way to get across the table, being a smaller board, and the ability to keep him off the table, which was always the biggest thing. One of the biggest things was, can you remember when the Demon Codex came out and everybody was absolutely losing their shit because they thought you could use the ability to deep strike him in, and that was like everyone was like, this is broken. There was like literally there were people that were completely going off the deep end, and people that were trying to quickly before it was FAQ get it in their lists for the weekend, right?
And that triggered the entire change that we had to how keywords worked. So suddenly that was an absolutely kind of like almost like a line of 8 where suddenly they said no, just because he's got the demon keyword, we're going to put our foot down. It's demon army keyword rather than just keyword. And so it changed. They physically had to change how the game worked to stop that. And you're right. And now you can do it with him.
Now you can kind of do it. I mean, it's not maybe quite as strong as that because obviously it's outflanking. But the reality is, you can do that now. And that you could do that before he got all his new rules. And that combined with a smaller table, he's just so good. He is such a good unit, and for the points he costs, you could have probably slapped another 50 to 100 points on top of him, and he would still be a viable choice. He would be a bit more, I don't know about that, it's a question mark. He's very expensive, but at the points he costs, for me, he's just such a no-brainer. He can do such a good job, and he's such a wrecking ball. So there you go. So I think we have to get branded T-shirts that have got like the old guy on the table. Mortarians and auto include. Change my mind.
That's it. That's what I'm going to say. I know people like you're always going to get that sort of player that goes, well, if you can't deal with him, get good. Your list ain't very good, and I get that. And that's what we had to do in the last edition, right? We had to find a way to deal with him because you just know full well if you got that list, you were going to get him slingshot into your lines, and you had to deal with him. Yeah. Otherwise, he would just wreck your day. Because if you didn't drop him in one turn, he just was going to become an absolute pain in your ass. He was just going to cause lots of issues, and that was that. And then we all found any sort of, I don't want to take the piss here, but any half decent player found a way to drop Mortarion in a turn, right? So then suddenly people stopped bringing Mortarion because everyone had an answer to it. And so I think this is the same place we're in now, which is he's turned up. He is an absolute boss. A lot of lists which were historically doing very well, he is just kind of deaf to. So they need to find a way to deal with it. Newer codexes as they come along will have answers. I think the Dark Angels have answers to him. there's still the hard counter of the Grey Knights. That's not going to go away. But he's just, you have to now, like me, I have to now work a way to deal with him, because if I get him, I kind of didn't have an answer, because he made a lot of what I had obsolete. And it's like, shit, hang about. Like, I would go in there with my blade guard and just go think, sack it. I'll just hit you with tons and tons of damage too, and I'll mob you with thunderhammers and power fists and all the rest of it, and I'll just bring you down that way. Now it's like, shit me, he's got.
No, you won't.
no, you won't, because suddenly my mastercrafted power swords are just power swords, and he's still got the boss invul save. He's still got his bloody feel no pain. Now he's damage -1 as well. Shit.
Yeah.
That made me buy a unit of eliminators, mate. That's what that did. So eradicators. Sorry, I've got 6 eradicators. Death to pain. Because I've had to find a way to deal with him. Because if he comes across the board at me, I'm all level of fucked, because he turns most of my army obsolete. It's like crap.
Absolutely.
So I think just for that reason alone, you're right. And people might say, he's not that amazing. He's not going to win tournaments. He might not, but I still think he'll dominate the midfield.
I think so. So that's kind of our top picks. So we'll move on to our losers. But what I would like to call them, and I'll give you a little bit of an Easter egg here for the listeners that have been with us for a long time. We'll call these the Venom Crawlers.
Yeah, don't be a Venom Crawler. Right, yeah. So these are...
Who are the Venom Crawlers for 9th edition for us?
Do you want me to shout one out first?
Go on.
This is not obvious, again, but it's changed a lot. And I'm going to throw Space Marine Scouts in there. If there's ever a unit that's been brought to its knees, it's Space Marine Scouts, right?
Man alive. They were shit ugly models that nobody would ever buy unless they had to, and now, whoa!
Why would you? Right? It's turned the Space Marine list on its head, right? So there goes our little. So what did everyone have, right? Space Marine Scouts with bloody sniper rifles, because they were troop choices. They were an easy tax, and they did something as well, right? They weren't amazing, but you had to have troops anyway. So if you're going to do that, why wouldn't you? Now you just throw them on the peep, right? Why would you ever bring?
They have no redeeming feature, right? No redeeming feature.
I can't think of one, to be honest. I'd want to try and think of something. They're shit ugly models.
They're not troops.
They're not troops. At what possible planet? They get none of the fancy Primaris stuff now. Like, why would you? So that
did they get 2 wounds? Did they get the 2 wounds?
No, they're 1 wound.
They didn't get the 2nd wound.
No, they're 1 wound models. Unless that's been FAQ'd and I've missed that, the Codex is 1 wound. So they're just basically not very good. They're 4-up save. They're not very good. Imperial Guardsmen.
Yes.
So no, they are for me hands down,
and they are the piss ugly models.
So that they have got to be my biggest loser, because they have gone from heroes to zeros, right? I think no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of players, Space Marine players, that will have a lot of those scouts sitting in their collection, and now use them for something else, because they are useless. I think that is a great choice. In fact, I think that's probably better than any of my choices. I think they are the rock bottom losers. I love it, definitely.
You could melt them down, turn them into Venom Crawlers, and probably get more play out of them, right?
I think you get more play out of Venom Crawler. You definitely get more.
That's
but they would make
go with.
But they would make less effective Christmas tree decorations, though. That is the only problem, right?
Oh yeah, we wouldn't want that fugly thing. Look at him with his big shag mouth open. What is all that about? No, terrible. Right?
It's Arnie, right? It's Arnie.
It's the shittest Arnie ever. Look at him.
It's the shittest Arnie ever.
That's the best model they've got for the Codex, right? Because they obviously picked the best model from every unit. That's the best one they had in that Codex. That's like the school picture that the kid comes home with. It's just like, I don't even want to show it you. Why? Oh, because it's just this is the best they had. This is the best one they did.
It's not great,
Right,
is it?
do
It's not great.
it.
So I think I'm going to keep the ball rolling on the Space Marines while we've got one boot in them. Let's put another boot in them, because this particular unit I could not stand in 8th edition. Since the Space Marine Codex came out, it was undercosted. It had stupid
Oh, I know where this is
stratagems.
going.
It was ridiculously accurate, and it was just, and everybody used fucking marshmallows or whatever they had under their kitchen table to use as proxies for it. It is the despicable Thunder Fire Cannon that is now ridiculously expensive and not as good.
Correct. I hated that gun.
I hated that gun.
It was just such a turd thing, and I'm glad it's now. I don't get me wrong, an Imperial Fist Codex may change that, right? It could do. Let's be honest. But right as it stands now, I'm glad to see the back of the sudden thing.
Yeah.
It was just nonsense. It was a nonsense gun.
Yeah.
I just
Stupidity.
despised the way it worked. It was just, it was a big pile of crap.
With the Devastator Doctrine in it and all that nonsense, it was so vile to play against for the points cost of it. It was just a despicable unit, really, and it was just it was a feel bad unit to have on the table because you'd never get to it. It would never miss. And it would just end up just picking up all your troops that were trying to do a job for you. Like, it's just a real kind of game.
And if it didn't, does it get anything special now? Can it do anything?
I don't think it can do anything anymore.
It's still got tremor shells, so it can still tremor shell stuff.
Has it got tremor shells? That stratagem still exists.
But it's not.
It can only do it once, though, can't it? It can only do it once. It can't do it twice. Is that right? I think.
Yeah. So what basically you do is use a stratagem when you're shooting phase when selecting a target for a Thunder Fire Cannon model in your army until the end of the phase. Each time that model makes a ranged attack, subtract 1 from that attack's wound roll. So it's -1 to wound. If a hit is it wounds harder. So if it then wounds, so it makes your model worse until the start of your next moving phase. You halve the move characteristic of the model, not Titanic, not Fly, and then you subtract 2 from advanced rolls and charge rolls. I mean, it's not that amazing on a small board now. Why do I really want that? Because the gun itself is crap. It's just absolute crap.
Yeah, you used to be able to do it twice as well.
Yeah. You can't do that. So it's literally like, yeah, you're right.
And it's so expensive now for points. Yeah, but there's so many people that were literally selling their vital organs to get hold of the damn things, and now they're feeling pretty good about themselves. I bet, right now.
I never. I mean, I was playing Iron Hands. Let's call it what it is. But I never stooped to that level because I just didn't like it. Didn't like the gun. Didn't like how it looked. Didn't like any part of it. Can we throw an honourable mention whilst we're in here?
I know what's coming. The Chaplain Dreadnought.
Yeah, let's throw him in
because he's deader than dead. Because he's proper dead.
No, he's gone completely. So
I couldn't put him on the list because he didn't get worse. He just disappeared.
Yeah. So I think he's an honourable mention for a loser of 9th edition, right? But it just goes to show, if you want a unit to be deleted from the game, just overplay the shit out of it, right? That's how you need to do it. So if tournaments do anything, at least it does that, which I know full well. I wrote it down, but you gave me a sneak peek of your little list, and there's another big loser of that. But I'll throw my one in first, which is actually the same point. Overplayed units get killed, right? Is that not true? So Chaos Cultists are now doomed because if they're dead in Death Guard, they're dead in every Chaos Codex to come. So the days of cultist spam, I think, are gone because they're now just there's no redeemable features for them. And if I can't sit them on objectives, be obsec, and then just raise banners or something with them, what is the point of their existence?
Yeah. Well, I can bring them back to life, can't I? With Space Marines still, technically, Chaos Space Marines.
Why would you? What are they doing? What are they doing now? It's like I'm not getting anything. The only way that they might come back now is if there's possibly I should know this, for God's sake. The Word Bearers, they're a cultist kind of spammy thing, aren't they? Or maybe something that starts to use the cultists in a different way. So like fluff wise, the Iron Warriors would just use them as just rangefinders. They'd literally running forward, mark out where the range of the guns were. They weren't going to kill anything. Their job was to die and give the guys an idea of that's how far the gun can shoot. If they give them some sort of other use, but right now they're this 5-6 points a model as well, and they do nothing. They're just literally shite.
Yeah, they are.
So I think they are a big loser because obviously every chaos list in the world had about 60 of the things. So now you're going, now what am I doing with them, right? So
yeah, I think it's a great shout. Great shout.
they are doomed.
Yeah, they are definitely doomed. So next up, I'm going to go with this is one close to your heart, which is another reason why I put it in the list. The Wolven.
I know it's coming.
With the Wolven, because they just didn't get anything. Like I
don't understand this either, right? I'm going to hit soapbox moment, right?
I know that's why I wanted to do it.
Something, right? So they had too much of everything, right? I don't think they were ever broken. They were good, right? They were a good unit,
right. But they were very expensive, so it was fine.
Well, they just did what they did, right? And they were quite tough to kill. Yada yada yada. They once you got there, yeah, and that's the issue. They not only did they get hit with the storm shield back, they then get hit with the no feel no pain as well, and it's like, guys, that's too much. So now it's like
no transhuman.
And no transhuman, which I can understand, right? I can get that because they've gone very much. This is a Primaris thing. They're not Primaris. I get that, but give them some love. Like you know, come on. I still use a unit of them now, but to be honest with you, since Death Guard turned up, it's even that's now like because I had a unit of just great axes, so 4 great axes and the guy with the claws because you have to have him. For some daft reason, you can't put your leader with anything else. No. He has to have the stupid claws. Yeah. So, and they were doing a job, which is you turn them up, they're a fire and forget. They charge something, they make the charge, they kill something because they do hit hard. Right? They have a lot of attacks, but then they die. Right to anything like stones. Right, literally. Probably to cultists. Cultists would probably kill them.
Well, the fact that you were just saying, I've got some eradicators on my table. I'll be replacing your list.
Yeah, I mean it's.
we'll
I still think they're cool. They're cool models, right? They're cool models. They just deserve a little bit more love. They got hit too hard.
They got hit so hard for no apparent reason. As you said, they were not broken. They were not ripping up the tournament scene. They just needed a couple of dedicated stratagems that made them effective. Yeah. And they just got no love. They just got no love.
If you got a strategy,
they lost everything.
Like that kind of the sort of the final frenzy or something that allowed you to get a 5-up feel no pain, even if it was just for one turn or something. Yeah. Just to at least make them, the fluff of what they are. They've been in the fucking warp for Christ's sake. These are tough guys. Now they're just like
scouts.
The strength, the toughness 5. They're not even like the 4. It's the 4-up armor. It's just no redeeming feature. They do hit. The redeeming feature is they do hit like tanks. They are now an actual glass hammer because they've got no resilience at all.
Because it's almost pointless taking the shields on them now, right?
Do you know what it was? They just makes them really expensive. Because if you want the Thunder Hammer, you've got to have to. Again, another thing that pisses me off. If you want the Thunder Hammer, and I probably do want Thunder Hammers now, I have to have the shield. I don't really want to pay for the shield because they're going to die anyway. So having a 4-up Imble on them doesn't really make that much of a difference.
Not really.
Stiff breeze is going to kill them anyway. So what's the point? So
it's just bad. And
the shit thing is they made. I'm really having a rant now. They made my great axes worse as well because they were D3 damage, which I would accept. They're now just 2 damage, which against Death Guard is shit. They're just 1 damage axes. Fuck off! Come on, guys, give me something. Give me a reason to put them on the board.
Yeah,
but
they have to hit first or they die.
Well, even the thing is, they hit first, and they do. I still use them quite a bit, right? And they do really hurt whatever you charge or have done. The problem is, the second you get Death Guard, you're like, well.
Thanks for playing.
Sorry, boys. You're probably gonna, if you can take out a unit of 5 Plague Marines, that you've done better than expected, and the Plague Marines will kill you because you're pretty shit.
Yeah, I'm thinking the old Deathwing. The guys are gonna laugh at.
But like they took everything off them, right? You can't even run. You can't even run them and then charge.
No,
It's like you took
exactly.
that as well. It's
No,
like,
and they lost that aura thing as well, didn't they?
lost
Which makes
everything.
everyone else.
It's just like no, they still got the aura, so the aura is still reasonable, but it's only core.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not core themselves, so they didn't even get core. It's like, come on, I don't even get rerolls. I get nothing. Right? It's like, come on.
Yeah.
It's like whoever designed that unit obviously sat there and went, ooh.
I think they run out of time. So it's Friday, so they're just writing the codex, and they got to the end of Friday, and they're like, right, we've still got a few units to do. We've got Wolven to do. Okay, let's just make it quick. Just write a couple of things in.
And the irony is as well, the leadership 7. So as soon as you kill 2 of them, they fucking run away anyway. So what's the point, guys? What's left? What more can you take from me? There's nothing else left.
Yeah, they got a little bit of a kicking, didn't they?
Oh,
so have you got any other on your list, or are we we're on to just the last one, haven't we, that we think we both agree on?
I think we do, but on different units.
Go on then. So you tell me what you were thinking.
I had to pick them because I've yet to see any use for them, and they're a cool looking model, and I think people kind of went out and bought them because they were cool looking models. And then every time I've seen them on the tabletop or played against them, they've done jack shit. And I'm going to go with the Snake Dude Destroyers because I just cannot work out how you...
Are they skull peck destroyers? Is that what they're called?
Snake things. They tunnel underground, don't they? I just literally... I just don't... I don't understand. It's... I remember destroyers being like the fear unit, right? They were what was good. So you get more destroyer units because they obviously had the triple leg guys... they hit fairly hard. They're not amazing, but they hit fairly hard. And then you get the snake guys, and then you get like the new models with the big guns. Like, oh wow, they're getting some love. These are going to be amazing. And then you get charged by a unit of snake guys. I literally a unit of snake guys charged my 5 intercessors on an objective, and I was like, oh, I've not played against these guys. Oh, that's my intercessors dead. And they killed 2 intercessors, and you were like, there's 9 of them. Or however many there was. It was just like, what's just happened? They're absolutely terrible. I'm like, I don't understand what's just gone on here. Like either I just don't know. I'm just so baffled. It's like I feel hard calling them a loser because they didn't exist in the previous edition. They just have started off crap. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe from here it's an upward curve for them.
Well, they can only really go up, right?
They are a really cool looking unit, and that's you look at them and think I quite like them. I like the aesthetic of them. I like all of the new destroyers. To be fair, I think they've got. I mean, even the triple leg guys don't make a lot of sense. Like things with triple legs fall over. I just don't really get that. But I just kind of even I'm sitting there when you're playing against your opponent and you're feeling a bit sorry for them. Like, oh, should we just say the damage too? Just for like feel doing something. I just don't get it. But there you go. They're my big losers.
Yeah. Well, I thought
win to begin with. So
no. Well, I thought we'd keep on the destroyer train, and I also picked destroyers, but I picked the classic destroyers, which were one of the only good units in the Necron Codex previously. So they it seems like they very much went, well, we're going to give you loads of good stuff. We've got to take away something.
So it's the Wolven treatment. It's the Wolven treatment.
They got the Wolven treatment.
Yeah. It seems that every and there's a trend here, isn't there? Right. So what did you see loads in Space Marines? Scouts dead. What did you see loads in Chaos Space Marine lists? Cultists dead. What did you see loads in? What did you see in every Necron list? Destroyers dead. I think the only army that's not suffered. They obviously got to Death Guard and went, well, maybe we should stop doing that. What unit did we always see in Death Guard? Those tanks. Let's make them better. Let's change up now. Let's make them better. You think, hang about, you've just dicked 3 units on the way here, and then you've got to that point. You're feeling sorry for them or something.
Yeah.
Maybe they just think the demo. I don't know.
I mean, the reanimation changes to the rules really hurt them massively, and then on top of that, they just neutered them. So. Yeah, for me, they're a unit, and it's just one of those things where like if you're a Necron player, particularly if you're like if you're not like a huge collector of Necrons, and you've just got you've been playing maybe Necrons for the last couple of years, pretty much your army needs a complete rethink because your two big juicy units of destroyers are now
Which you
completely
used to
shit.
beam across the board, right? That's what they
Yeah.
did.
Well, yeah, and it's
And
just they
pop
just
the
used to do
strap
so.
to reroll
Yeah.
it to boom and all
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah.
not a thing now, either, is it? Or it doesn't
No,
seem to.
no. And they just die. And the fact of what before used to happen is, unless you killed a lot of them, half of them would come back. You'd never kill that bloody unit. But
Destroyer
now,
lords as well.
yeah,
They're not what they were because they can't get back up again. So that's funny. So it's just
they
like,
just,
yeah,
and I think they went up in points as well to make it even worse. So yeah, they're just a unit that was one of the absolute stars of the show, and now they're absolutely shit. So
yeah. It's odd as well because you like. I know there's some winners. There you go, Ophidian destroyers. That's what they are. They're the snake guys. I want to know if they work. So please, for the love of God, if you've got them to work, comment or do something because right now they just look. And to be fair, again, you've nailed it. You probably don't want them to be good because transporting them to tournaments, it just looks like they're just snap
massive
everywhere.
bike.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
on springy little springs. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
But
but we would love to hear your thoughts on what units you think are the big winners and big losers, and also if you completely disagree with what we've said, then also let us know and tell us why, because we'll read all those comments and they'll form part of our conversation probably next time out. So, but yeah, so please do kind of have a good old chat in the comments. But thanks very much for listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show, and we'll be back in a fortnight for another. Hopefully we have some more. We have probably the horrible Dark Eldar one, then, won't we?
whatever they're called these
Yeah,
days, Drakari.
Jakari. I hate them as well. So we'll have good
Do you know
fun with
what?
that.
I'm going to write down, kill that fucking 2+ invul, please. I hate that 2+
I'm
invul.
with you as well. We'll see in a fortnight's time. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back soon. So thanks. Bye bye.
Bye bye.